Hunt. Joining me now to discuss, Tammy Bruce, Fox News political contributor, also Independent Women's Voice president, Washington Times columnist. Among all her accomplishments, Ned Ryan, American Majority CEO. Of course, he was also former Bush 43 presidential writer. And Robin Byro, Democratic strategist, former Obama campaign regional field director. Ned, let me start with you. You know what? A couple of years ago, President Trump was nuts, crazy to even suggest that there was so-called spying on him. These days, everyone's really curious as to not only did it happen, but how far does it go back and why?
Well, and I think the American people deserve answers. If our DOJ and FBI, and I would add CIA, Charles, because John Brennan is up to his eyeballs in this, if our federal law enforcement and intelligence community were used and abused and politicized against Donald Trump's campaign, the American people deserve to know. And I think what's happened, Charles, is this, that in fact the previous administration did in fact weaponize the surveillance state against Donald Trump, not for national security reasons, but for political and policy differences. And the reason I say that, Charles, is this. If it really was about protecting Donald Trump and combating potential Russian influence on his campaign, what they would have done is gone to him at the very beginning and had an honest conversation with him and said, we have our concerns. We think there are people on your campaign that are problematic. Maybe you should fire them. Perhaps we will even put one or two informants on the campaign with your permission and knowledge. None of that took place, Charles. And I think Donald Trump made a very good point today. Everybody, right, left, Republican, Democrat, should be deeply concerned about what this means for our democracy moving forward. Are we going to live in a police state? Are we going to criminalize political differences?
Robin, your thoughts?
My thoughts, I don't see this as political differences. The DOJ had their eye up on this quite a while ago. They felt that he was shopping for political influence from foreign countries.
Who was shopping for political influence?
Who? Not just Russia, but the Saudis. We just saw last week that the emissary for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia met with Donald Trump Jr. and offered foreign influence.
But you say he, Robin, let's be clear, though. Are you saying President Trump, as a candidate, was shopping for political influence outside of this country?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the DOJ was checking to see if he was. Now, the DOJ and FBI are smart enough to not use their own people. They would use a dole. They would use a U.S. dole, probably probably somebody like an emissary, a foreign national, to see if, because they wouldn't use one of their own people to see if he was shopping for foreign influence. It would be smarter to use a foreign national. So
okay, let's leave it there. Let me bring it in, Tammy. It's the explanations for it are just, they're harder and harder to throw out there, because even Clapper yesterday, I think he was on The View, even he is having a hard time now sort of justifying the magnitude of anything that would have piqued any sort of interest amongst the intelligence community.
Yeah, and look, the other obvious one also is, since we do know Russia was angling for influence and was doing things and was going after the DNC server and possibly Hillary's campaign and all of her data, they didn't put anybody in the Hillary campaign. So if this is the strategy to get information and to save campaigns and to save America, it's funny that it only happened to Donald Trump. But let me also say that there's an argument that Donald Trump is trying to undercut the FBI or undercut the intelligence system here in America. He would be undercutting it if he did nothing to expose this and to stop it, because it is right now on a train headed for a cliff. This has been destructive for the entities themselves, for the agencies, for the agents on the ground, for the value that they provide this nation. President Trump's insistence on clarity and transparency on this is the thing that will save the intelligence community in this country, and as a result, the nation itself.
Robin, you do have to wonder with the Hillary Clinton's questionable past with respect to the uranium one deal and some of these other things, the payment arrangements for Bill Clinton's speeches and how they spiked once she got the job as Secretary of State, and all these other things. If there was anything that would pique the interest of the intelligence community, of the Department of Justice, to Tammy's point, it would have seemed more likely that it would have been Hillary Clinton rather than Donald Trump.
And I see your point there, but I got to be honest with you. It sounds a little bit like whataboutism. Anytime that lens is focused on Donald Trump and what he's doing, let's talk about the 17 indictments, the 5 guilty pleas. It goes to what about Hillary Clinton? Well, she's not president right now. Donald Trump is, and he's under investigation.
Well, no, this is about
not
the
just
candidates
for
at the time.
Yeah, let me bring in that because I almost laughed out loud when you said whataboutism. Ned, obviously it's not about that. What we're trying to say, though, is if you're going to use a certain type of excuse for all of this, make sure it's an excuse that works on both sides, and obviously none of them have so far.
No, and this is insane. All of those guilty pleas are process crimes. They had nothing to do with Russian collusion. And I would say, again, if you want to talk about influence peddling, let's look at the Clinton Foundation. But again, all of this goes back to, Charles, is ultimately about the rule of law. Is there actually a standard in which we will all say all are equal before it? Or are we going to say because of political differences, political policy differences, we're going to actually target some people and not others? Some people are going to get away with certain things like, I don't know, destroying BlackBerries, using bleach bit, doing all those things. Others we're going to target simply because we have political differences. And Tammy is right. Donald Trump is going in because guess what? 2016 was about, in many ways, people losing faith and trust in their institutions. And it's stuff like this, Charles, that further reinforces people's distrust of our government. If Donald Trump can go in and clean house and actually restore confidence and faith in the DOJ and the FBI, he's not only doing a service to those institutions, he's doing a service to the American people.
Yeah, Tammy, I mean, there's no doubt about that, and particularly amongst the rank and file FBI agents, the men and women on the ground who are doing their job and doing a great job. But there's obviously distrust. We've seen the key agents involved in this. We've seen the leadership involved in this. And it's hard to not even believe that these roots that President Trump talks about, that they must go very, very deep.
Well, and the American people have also seen a stonewalling that is very, very strange. When Congress asks for something from an agency that they can see, that they're on committees, that they oversee, as an example, the FISA court themselves, and the Justice Department or the FBI says no, that then sends another signal that there's something else that's going on. And the American people saw this with, of course, the Tea Party. This goes back a long way. When the American people themselves are targeted by a law enforcement agency, that's when a lot of people were wondering, what has the government become? Not just ineffective, but now is the government seeing us as the enemy? This is what has to get cleared up.
Tomorrow, White House Chief of Staff General Kelly will bring some key folks in, Robin, and they'll have a chance to look at some of this information. Would you like to see Democrats part of that, or do you think that's a mistake in of itself?
Look, I have great respect for General Kelly. He's one of the best choices that Donald Trump has made. So I do hope that Democrats join in this. And, you know, really, I just want to get to the truth of the matter. As a veteran myself, I just want to make sure that our way of democracy is protected and hasn't been compromised by a foreign adversary.
Real quick, Ned, are you confident, though, we're at this point now where we will get to some honest resolution with this?
I certainly hope so. I mean, the meeting tomorrow is about getting these classified documents that, again, Congress has been requesting for oversight. Hopefully, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to get the transparency and the honesty and really get to the root of the problem of this. Because, again, Charles, if we can't get trust and faith in the FBI and the DOJ, we've got serious problems moving forward as a democracy.
Certainly we do. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.